So there we have a timer, and it's always showing 2 digits for minutes, and it's always showing 2 digits for the seconds. And that's looking a bit better, although the font size is quite small, so maybe we can just improve that a little. It doesn't take too much. All we need to do is add a property to the label, and that property is font.pointSize. Let's try some larger fonts and see how they look. And go with 16. So that's not particularly huge. Let's go for 20. It's still quite small. So the form factor of our simple timer, it's really designed as just a little window there, but you can maximize it as well, but there's not really much to it, so it ends up being quite a lot of blank space. But as a mobile kind of looking window, that would work fine. Let's try it with 25 anyway. So that seems fine when you shrink it down. The numbers aren't too big for that form factor. But importantly, at the moment, what it's not got any awareness of is minutes. So the on clicked is fine, it just starts the timer. But when the seconds are triggered, it will just add 1 to seconds indefinitely. So what we want is a clause here. So if, and we don't need an else clause, it's just an if statement. So if the seconds are greater than 59, so we add 1 onto it. So 59 is fine, but if it's more than 59, then we're going to want to reset the seconds to 0 and add 1 to minutes. So let's put that in the if clause there. So if seconds is greater than 59, then we want to have seconds equal 0 and minutes equal minutes plus 1. So minutes plus equals 1. And then we can save that. And maybe we should neaten this up a little bit. It's got a few hanging brackets. Again, it's not necessary. The blank space is really just for your own benefit. It doesn't make any difference to the code. But if you use a double / for a comment, you can put them in the closing brackets, and then it's just easy to see at a glance. Not necessary, but you may find useful when you're looking back over your code. So that's looking fine, and everything's contained within the timer brackets there. So let's run that. Okay, so we're going to run this, and we'll just check that it does do what it's meant to do. When it gets to 59 seconds, with the magic of video, we'll fast forward this bit. And now we should get a change here. So the seconds get reset to 0, and the minutes are increased by 1, and that's the basic functionality of our timer, all happy and good. So if we have a look through here, what we don't have is a reset button. So if we make another section, this is the bottom section here, where we have our button. So let's make a containing rectangle for that start stop button. We'll call it start stop as the name of this section. And we'll have the width to be half the width of the parent. So this will take the bottom section, and it will be the left side for the start stop button. So the parent width is half the parent width, sorry, the width is half the parent width. The height is the parent height. But the anchor, we will anchor the left side of this rectangle to the left side of the containing rectangle of the bottom section. So we want to just align these for easy readability. We use the tab there, as the button is part of the contained within that rectangle, and then we do need the closing brackets to make sure that the start stop section is contained as it should be. And then we're going to make another rectangle, so we can actually make a copy of this start stop rectangle. If we copy and paste that in, and that will be our reset button. So again, it is just another section that's half the width of its parent. This time we need to give it a unique ID, which will be reset. And we want to anchor it to the right hand side of this bottom section. So the right anchor is the anchor to the right of the parent. Now the button here, it will always just say reset, so no need for an if else clause. And what happens when we click it? Well, you want to, I suppose, stop the timer really when you hit reset. So the timer dot running equals false to begin with. And then once we've stopped the timer, we will set the seconds to 0 and the minutes to 0. And that's really all that the reset button is going to do. So that's now, that will be the right hand side of the bottom section, and the start stop button is the left hand side of the bottom section. So everything's contained there. Let's just change our little comment reference so we know that that's reset, and then we'd better check that that's all contained fine within the bottom section rectangle. Yep. So let's run that, and you can see we forgot to put a color into the these containing rectangles, so that's easily fixed. Just give the start stop section a color. So we'll put in color transparent again. You could actually put in parent.color for the color, and it will take on the color of its containing rectangle. But that's just transparent anyway. So let's just write it out, and then it's easy to read what we're doing with each section. If we save that and run it now, so that's looking halfway decent. We have our simple timer in a resizable window. We can start and stop the timer, and then we can reset it and start and stop it again whenever we want. Maximized, well, we could neaten that up really. There's room for improvement, but we'll just leave it at that for just now. The idea is that we'll be running it in the smaller form factor. So let's see if we can increase the size of the font again and see if it still works as a small window. So we've got the minimum width and the minimum height there, and it's still perfectly readable at that size. Maximize, it's fine, but not particularly neat. But we're going to try and run it this way, or you could have it as a sort of longer window if you had a mobile platform. But we have a resizable, vaguely useful application, and in the next section we're going to make a desktop entry for it so we can start it from an icon. So if we just give it a starting width just slightly smaller, so it starts up as a small window, it sort of seems more useful that way. But you can start it as whatever size you want, and you can change the minimum width, minimum height. But that's our vaguely useful application, using basically a label and a button, or two buttons in this case.